Hi everyone and welcome to episode 069 of the WA Running Podcast, recording on Monday the 10th of March 2025. In this week's results, we cover results from the State 1500 metres Championships that was held on Friday night, along with the much discussed Secret Rocky Runners Beachside run on Sunday the 9th of March. To celebrate International Women's Day, Simon interviews...
You are Simon.
I am Simon. To celebrate International Women's Day, I interview show favourite Kate Baker, running over some of the various amazing things Kate has achieved on the roads in WA and abroad. The next Warp Community Run is scheduled for Wednesday the 26th of March, while we also deliver top secret news from Warp's very own Master of Whisperers, Dan Bobridge, along with celebrating our many, many weapons of Warp. Across my screen is someone that celebrated his 38th birthday over the weekend, Chris, the Metronome Shaw. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. I feel a whole year older after Saturday's run.
Yeah. How was your run on Saturday?
It was good. I kind of last minute planned last week to run 38 kilometers for my 38th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And it went really well. I woke up in the morning and felt like I didn't really want to do it, but I think I'd done a big carb load the day before and had a nice big breakfast. And by the time I got stuck into it, it was great. And the weather was cool. It was like a nice change, a little bit of rain in there. I did ruin my phone though. So my phone was in my back pocket and I didn't have the cover on it. Anyway, it must have, a bit of water must have got in there and it's basically swollen. So the screen's now popped off the chassis. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So RIP the Pixel 5, right?
Yeah. RIP Pixel 5. There's another one on the way. So it's, we'll see how it goes.
Is it another Pixel or are we changing phones?
No, staying in the Google ecosystem. So with a Pixel 8a, so not this last year's model, but the year before. So I'm more than happy to take that for $10 a month for the next 24 months or whatever it is.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And lastly, on your birthday run, how's the chicken korma? Is it chicken korma that you had?
So Maddie and I had a beef korma on
yep.
Friday night. So as a bit of a part of the carb load, I guess, a lot of rice, a bit of roti, and I had a bit of beef korma trauma on Saturday morning, unfortunately, but it didn't completely destroy my run, which was good. But I did have to stop at 5Ks, 11Ks, and about 32Ks to evacuate.
Yeah. Found the toilets okay? Toilets were open?
That's the beauty of Perth. I think a lot of places along the river have access to toilets. So I was very fortunate on this occasion. Not like our friend David a couple of weeks ago.
No, not at all. Good to see that you had a very successful run and the korma didn't cause too much troubles then.
Yeah, no, that's good.
How was your training week then overall?
Yeah, fantastic. That was a nice way to kind of cap it off. I ran 132 Ks last week. So I said last week I probably would keep it around 125. And then I found myself in a position on Thursday or Friday where I realized that I'd probably run too many Ks early in the week. And then my legs are feeling good, ran my 38 Ks and I had a little recovery run on Sunday. So yeah, all up 132. I don't expect that I'll go much further than that before Bunbury, but we are where we are.
There's always next week.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we say potentially there's more, but you've got something coming up this weekend, right?
Yeah, I've been keeping it under wraps a little. Been trying to take the pressure off. I'm going to be running Canning River Running Festival this week, run by Running Works. So I'll be doing the 10K there, and I believe you are doing the 3-hour 30-minute marathon pacing job, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct. The plan is to pace for 30 Ks and not do a full marathon. We'll see how we go on Sunday. We'll see how I pull up after the session on the Saturday, because so that's going to be a 2x5K at tempo for me. So hopefully I pull up okay, and hopefully I stop at 30 Ks. So.
You won't do what you did at the Wolves Run Club that time and run 60 kilometres or whatever it was?
Look, if the vibes are good, if the vibes are great, I'll keep going, and maybe I'll just stop my watch early so that Tina doesn't see it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the goal for Canning River? Are you putting some plans out there into the universe in terms of goal time?
So I'd love it to be under 37 minutes. It just depends on how far under 37 minutes it will be. So I think
pace is that?
37 is 3:42. So I feel like I probably could have done that at Fremantle last year and then cocked it up. So I think the plan will be to, kind of be a little conservative the first couple of Ks as best I can, and then try and wind it up in the last 5, hopefully. And if I get a tailwind on the way back, that'd be lovely.
So Sunday's forecast is a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 29. So very similar conditions to me on Sunday. So
I think the from what it says on the Running Works website, the course is very shady. So even though it's what a 7:30 start, or I can't remember what time the race starts, but it is quite shady. So even if there is any sun around, hopefully it will be concealed. It would be lovely.
very good, very good. All right, so my week, I think I ended up with 90 Ks for the week, which was really good. I think last week I was talking about the mind games that David Perrich and I were playing, which continued throughout the week. So I was probably tossing up between whether or not to fully taper or not. And so if you did see my training at the start of the week, I was probably doing a lot of Ks early in the week and then considering whether or not to taper or not. Thankfully, work, like I said to you before the record, has been pretty challenging lately. So I had a shocker on a Friday. So a planned run on Friday never eventuated. So so that was really my taper for the week. And then I did a late 30-minute run on Saturday evening to do a bit of a shakeout before Sunday. So being obsessed with kilometers and clearly ignoring Tina's program, I ended up doing 32 Ks in total on Sunday. So
oh, wow.
So did 3 Ks before, did the half marathon, and did 8 Ks post-race, and legs felt pretty good after the race, which probably tells me I didn't work hard enough.
Probably.
But 90 Ks for the week. A bit sore this morning, but managed to get out a run with Rachel
cool.
this morning. So legs are okay. I don't have a session planned on Tuesday, so it gives me an opportunity to rest and recover a little bit with some easy miles and straight back into it on Thursday, Saturday, and hopefully 30 Ks on Sunday.
Yeah, beauty. So what was the reason behind the 8 p.m. shakeout run?
I was planning to go for a 30-minute shakeout run Saturday morning, and unfortunately I wanted to sleep in. So
yeah, fair enough.
And and I didn't want to just take 2 days off. So I was feeling pretty fatigued actually after like Friday. So, and then Saturday I was sort of itching for a run, and unfortunately 7:30 p.m. was the earliest I could go for a run. So did 30 minutes. I actually did feel much better doing it. So I
get the nerves out of the
that's
way.
it. That's it. So, and then I didn't realize how fucking far Circuit Harbour is from Wanneroo. So it took me an hour and 10 minutes or something around there. So was it worth it? I'll recap my race later.
Yeah, let's wait and find out, shall we?
Yeah, definitely. Let's get straight into results. So we had the State Track and Field Championships that was over the weekend, but we'll just cover the 1500 meters. We'll start very quickly in terms of the under 18s. So in the women's, that was won by Ailey Mulroy in a time of 4 minutes 37. In the men's, Matthew Stoner took out the win in 4 minutes and 4 seconds, which I believe is a PB. So congrats, Matt. In the under 20 women's, that was taken out by Lucy McNamara in a time of 4 minutes 41. And in the men's was taken out by Tom Cross with a time of 3 minutes 54, a PB, which was good to see from our Running Centre social media guru. We'll head straight into the open women's race, and got to see this on the stream, which was awesome. So watching the race as it happened, it looked like from the very start we had Leah Allen and Jasmine Pugh dictating the pace from the very get-go, with Lauren Ramsden and Amy Buckingham along with Hannah Doyle with that front pack. And then with 600 metres to go, Amy makes a move and Hannah Doyle sort of follows suit. with the final lap, Hannah takes the lead and then just smokes everyone really, and looked like she was in cruise control based on her facial reaction. And then Angie Ross was able to follow along with Hannah and finish pretty strong, actually. It looked like if there was a little bit more track, Angie probably would have overtaken Hannah, but Hannah was able to squeeze in for the win. So congrats, Hannah, a friend of the show, takes the win in 4 minutes 29. So she sneaks under the 4:30 barrier, so a PB for her. So congrats, Hannah. Angie Ross coming very close in second in 4 minutes 30, which we believe is the state masters record. So congrats, Angie. And Leah Allen rounds off the podium in third for 4 minutes 32. You got to watch the men's race.
Certainly did. Care of streamer.com.au. Not sponsoring this podcast, but we'll tell people to go and check it out, I suppose. So an interesting race, actually, the men's open race. Lachlan Bennett made a pretty bold move by pushing the pace quite early. Maybe it was the kind of back straight of the first lap or, just afterwards. Had a lead of about 40 meters at one point before a few guys started to pull him in. And within like the space of maybe 200, 300 meters, that 40 meter gap was closed up by Tom Moorcroft and Max Shervington. So they then took up the lead and had a little bit of a battle, but Shervo really kind of put the burners on and torched the field. If I'm honest, Max came in at 3:45.72, followed by Tom Moorcroft in 3:49.38. And then Kieran Tibbles round out the podium in 3:50.40 with a PB there. So interesting to see Shervo throw up the Rams running gang signs as he crossed the finish line, which is great to see. I think, great. Both very good races. Do go check them out if you can. I had a bit of trouble watching the women's race, just a bit of skipping and such, but you do get to see Hannah kind of push that last lap and Angie close in on her. It's quite you're on the edge of your seat waiting to see what happens at the end of the race there. But I'm sure Hannah's glad the finish line was where it was.
Yeah, definitely. I think, very exciting to see a 1,500 meter race. And we got to see the 1,500 meters last week at the Track Classic, and very tactical type of race, which it's great to see as a spectator. But I think if I was trying to race the 1,500 meter, the anxiety of racing that style of race will just make me throw up before the race even starts. So I don't know how I'd go about running a 1,500 meters. I know we've talked about potentially doing track next summer, but how would you run a 1,500 meter race if you were racing?
It's just so foreign, isn't it? I mean, there's a few guys that are relatively new to the track that I saw in that field, and they're running well, but I just have no clue as to where I'd sit. I feel like there'd be guys I could outrun in a half marathon that would absolutely smoke me in a 1,500 because I just probably don't have that top end speed, and being self-coached, I think training, like coaching yourself to a marathon, is reasonably straightforward. You run a lot, you run fast a little bit, and then you run a long run. But actually training for something like this, I think it would be far more specific and difficult to get right.
I know we also saw on the stream Carlos running in the 1,500 meters, and it's so foreign us to see Carlos looking like a 10-year-old boy next to some of those guys. And we know how fast Carlos can run, and just seeing how far behind he is just makes us realize how, if we were running with Max Shervo and Tom Moorcroft, they'd be lapping us on a 1,500 meter track.
Yeah, I reckon we'd be just going through the 800 meters when they've finished, to be honest.
I know. Awesome to see. Thank you to streamer.com for, just putting the whole track and field championships online. So, if you get a chance to watch it, please go ahead and do that. Shall we move on to the overseas marathons?
Yeah, so we had a couple on this weekend. We had Nagoya and Shizuoka. So I think Shizuoka is Matt Maguire's favourite marathon, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Whether it's a dead flat or slightly downhill, I can't remember what the reference was there. But I'll cover Nagoya first. So we had Leanne Pompiani break the Australian women's marathon debut record in a time of 2:24.53, coming in 8th for the race, which I think shaved about 3.5 minutes off that previous record, which is incredible. And I think everyone had been kind of waiting for Leanne to run a marathon and to see where it would at and whether or not her half would convert. And it seems like it has. So shit. I mean, it just adds another person to the mix, for this women's Australian record, which seems to be on the edge of being broken every couple of months. Izzy Doyle also ran that race. She came in sixth, running 2:23:29. So I don't think a PB for her, but nevertheless, another very consistent race from Izzy. Would you like to cover Shizuoka Marathon, Simon?
Yeah, so that was also on weekend as well, and it seems like we had a couple of front runner guys join in on the action. So it must be a front runner tradition going to Japan at this time of year. So like the double guys who make the Baso Bay runner thing, must be a front runner thing going to Japan. So it looks like we had a couple of guys running there. We've got Gonzalo Sepulveda running a 12:47 marathon, which is a PB for them. So congrats, Gonzalo there. Matthew Dickey running a similar time, but a time of 2 hours and 48, also a PB. And Bryce Cameron running a time of 2 hours and 56 minutes, also a PB. So maybe that's the place to go if Gold Coast doesn't happen for me for sub 3.
Yeah.
Special shout out to Adam Williams. He ran a time of 2 hours 48. So similar time there. Admittedly made some tapering mistakes and felt the heavy legs early. Joys of balancing life and marathon training life. So he started at 3:45s, but slowed down to about a 4:15 pace before a stronger finish at the end. We also had Joe McKillop running a 3 hour and 9 minute marathon at the end. Started really strong. I think she was running at 4-minute Ks, but then unfortunately at the 25K mark, it got a bit too hard. So just slowed down a touch to finish the marathon off. So look, a reflection there of the joys and the tribulations of a marathon, and it's probably the reason why we always do it. We say we only do it once and never again, and yet we come back to this beautiful nightmare. So I think looking at some of those results there and seeing some of the training that these guys have put through, probably some good lessons for me, I reckon, in terms of it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I've always made it very clear that I'm going to put all my eggs into the one basket for Gold Coast, but at the same time, it could all fuck up on the day as well, right? So,
yeah, that's the thing. It can all go wrong. It can all go wrong very quickly. I mean, you could do everything right in training, and one thing could be different. It might be the weather. It might be what you ate. It might be that you miss a drink station or something, and it can all kind of capitulate. So, I mean, yeah, it is the beautiful nightmare, I think. But I mean, I think we've said in the past that the training for the marathon is kind of, I don't know, it feels like the pinnacle of this kind of sport in some ways. And I love it. I mean, I think I prefer this than I do running the short stuff, but I can't run the long stuff forever, and I have never really run the short stuff, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, look, I think put together a good block, and I think it'll all come together. I mean, better equipped now than we were, say, a year ago, Simon. So
for sure,
yeah,
definitely. All right, let's move on to the Secret Rocky Runners Beachside Run. Take it away, Chris.
Yeah. So the race that wasn't a race was a good one in the end. So it looked like I'll start with the 5K results. I'll work through the 10 and then we'll get to the half afterwards. In the 5K, the men's race was won by Michael Ward in a time of 25:58, followed by Bob Hull in 26:10, and then finally Reece Lawley coming in at 29:53. The women's race, the women's in this 5K race were actually the top three outright, which is amazing. Misaki Baxter, she won in 24:18, followed by Michelle Kemp in 24:33, and then Lila Taylor in 25:49. So, yeah, certainly not something you see every day, but I think that's wonderful advertisement for women's running. The 10K. So we had friend of the show, and a good friend and training partner of ours, Matt Smarilli, coming in first in 38:24, and I'll go through the rest. We had Radek Zitkowski in a time of 38:50, so not far behind, and then Matt Ulbricht, another listener of the show, coming in third, 42:14. Now, Matt probably didn't have the race that he had hoped for. He, from what we understand, he took a wrong turn and ran about 400 meters extra,
he did.
and still came first. So he lost his position in that turn, and had to work hard to over those hills in the back half of the course, or the middle half of the course, to kind of regain first position. But I don't think he had the best day, but by all accounts, his legs were all right afterwards. So, and he came away with the chockies. So, doesn't have much to complain about.
No, not at all. I think, I was surprised that I didn't see him earlier, and when I saw him zooming past in the opposite direction as I was going out for my second lap, he did not look happy at all. So, thankfully, at that point, he had caught up. So I wasn't sure if Radic also missed the turn, or whether or not Matt made the mistake and had to play catch up. But I did see him much later, and seemed like he had to make up for lost time. So I think he told us after the fact that he had the worst race, and he did not enjoy that one bit. And I'm not too sure if we're going to have Matt back at Secret Rocky Runners next year.
Yeah, I don't think so. And by the sounds of Perich's run, I don't think he'll be back either. But we'll get to that in a moment. The women's 10K was won by Georgia Baldock in a time of 44:48. Then Talia Dowsett coming in second, 54:33, followed by Leanne Raby in a time of 58:28. Now, the half marathon, I'll start with the women's race. We had Megan Goodwin coming in 1:41:27, followed by Jo Scott in 1:50:23, and then Grace Lamont in a time of 1:51:23. So this race, Simon, was one that you podiumed on last year. I think you came second, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
Now, the winner of that race last year was one Tom Shenton, who left you and Adrian Fabiankovitz for dead after about 14 Ks there. And I think he ran a 1:21 last year or thereabouts. Now, I think going into this, you had sent, maybe Tom slid into his DMs and maybe checked if he was running, and he said he wasn't feeling very fit. But it turns out that Tom still won. He ran a 1:23:07. That's back-to-back wins for him. In second was Sam Colvin in 1:25:59. And then coming in third, just in front of you, was Wade Adam, 1:26:46. Now, I think you ran a 1:26:50 something.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. What was it? A 1:26:57. So you snuck under 1:27. How did you have Wade in your sights, and was those last couple of Ks that you picked the pace up to try and reel him in?
No. Yeah, look, so Tom Shenton actually PB'd yesterday, so I think he must have run a bit slower last year, but he hit a PB yesterday, and because it ran long, the course yesterday, I think he could probably cut some more time there, which is probably impressive for Tom, considering that he was recovering from sickness. So how it unfolded for me, so we'll address the race that wasn't a race. So I knew that David was going to go out at 4-minute Ks, and if I were to go out at 4-minute Ks, which was actually my original plan, I knew that if David was within reach of me, that he would smoke me or he would make a move, and I did not want that to happen. So my game plan, actually, I messaged Tina late the night before.
This is good. Yeah, here you go.
Basically saying, you know what, Tina? And this was after I interviewed Kate on Saturday. So, we'll get to Kate's interview in a sec. But long story short, Kate's very competitive. She goes out hard and she holds on for dear life. So after hearing that from Kate's interview, I went, you know what? I'm going to be aggressive and hold on for dear life. So I messaged Tina with my intentions to run hot at the start, and hopefully the hills don't fuck me up. So from the start line, I ran, what was my first K? I think 3:53s or something. I think I slowed down to a 4-minute second K, but then I ran a 3:48 or 3:47 third K. And really the intention behind that was probably two things. First thing was to smoke Perich so that he doesn't hang around. But the second thing was, last year I knew Tom was going to sit. Well, last year Tom sat behind Adrian and I for 14 Ks before taking off. So I figured I'll go hard. He's recovering from sickness. I know Tom's much fitter than me, but if I smoke him at the start, or try to smoke him at the start, maybe he won't hang around. turns out Tom hung around, and not only did he hang around for the first 3Ks, after the 3Ks, he just zoomed and went even faster. And I think he must have been doing 3:45s or something after that.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
and he looked very comfortable throughout. Looked like
Mhm.
he was barely breathing, like very much a Smirelli on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I went out quick and I tried to hold on, and I think I managed to do that okay until the hills came, and I forgot how hard those little undulations and the sharp climbs
Yeah.
were. So, and the course, I don't know if you remember from last year, but the turnaround was probably halfway up a hill,
Mhm.
which was okay because you kind of slow down, and then once you do the hairpin turn, you're kind of whizzing back down the hill. They've made the turnaround a little bit longer, so you actually go downhill sharply,
Oh no.
and then the hairpin turn is right there. So not only are you forced to brake downhill, but then you have to climb back up a hill
Oh.
on the return. So, and this was me coming second at this point, so I could see Tom make the turn and then go up and just say to me, that fucking turn sucks. And then, I was able to experience it myself. Look, I was probably feeling pretty cooked, and mentally was quite hard actually on the return. So you probably see a couple of 405s, 406s on the return. And then Sam and Wade actually overtook me after the start of the second lap. And they took off. They probably made a move very early there, whereas I was still hovering in the 403s at the time.
Okay.
Managed to claw myself back, actually. So I could see Wade within my sights, probably around the 14K mark. And I started to reel him in. And I was kind of just sticking at the 4-minute pace by then. And I could see him turning his head. So I sniffed weakness.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I caught up. Now you'll see my 16, well, probably my 17, 18Ks sitting at 415s. The reason that was the case was because I made a decision, which was a poor decision, to just sit behind him. So he started to slow down, particularly up the hills. And he zoomed down the hills, but the up hills he actually slowed down significantly. I should have just made a move.
Yeah,
I should have learnt from the 3K you did where you smoked, I don't know who you smoked. I forgot who you smoked.
Yeah,
you smoked Nicola up the hill. I should have done that. Instead, I decided to sit behind and try to save it towards the end in terms of the flat sections. But I made a move at the 19th K, and he continued to follow me and then overtake me and beat me by 13 seconds or whatever it was. So yeah, good learnings for next time. I know, Perich and Matt didn't have a good race, and that's because the course is actually pretty hard. So if people are juggling between this race and Canning River, that's pretty flat. Of course, people go for the Canning, but the reason why I did it this year was because I used this race last year as a tune-up race for Bobridge, like yourself. And it has similar elevation profile to Bunbury, so it was a good practice for us. That's basically the reason why I did it this year. I know I got the Rebel vouchers last year, but it actually is because it's a difficult course. So
it's good to get used to.
Good mindset training. I knew I was going to run a lot of that course solo, so it's good to run that. Good to go through the hurt locker and see how you pull up. So I've got a similar time from last year, which is actually a good reflection of where my fitness is at. And I said to Tina afterwards, I'm itching to go for another half marathon. So potentially pencil a half marathon in between a marathon block to Gold Coast is my plan at this stage.
Yeah. So what is there? There's obviously not going to be doing that one next week, but there's probably there is Joondalup and the 18th of May, and then you've got HBF on the 25th. So they're potentially, and then I think Rottnest is in June. But
June might be too close.
Too close, yeah.
So I'm thinking Joondalup at this stage. So I know I was emailing the Marathon Club about potentially pacing the half marathon at Joondalup, but I think I'm going to race it at this stage.
Good.
It's my
home track
plan.
bully, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. So that's the plan. And I think it might fit in okay in terms of the Gold Coast training block. So I actually haven't raced a half marathon since the half type bet last year actually at Bibra.
Yeah, right. Long time.
So I think I've paced a couple of times
Mhm.
throughout the rest of the year. So yeah, it would be good to get back into it, on a flat course.
What did you run at Joondalup last year? It was like a 1:24:40 something, was it?
Yeah, that's it. So I think we were running maybe 4-minute Ks or 4:05s, and then you kind of put on the gas a little bit towards the end, and I was kind of holding for dear life. This was post Bunbury Marathon. So, and remember, I had COVID after
That's right.
Bunbury as well. So we'll see how we go. I think, yeah, if all goes to plan, I'd like to race really well for Joondalup. So whatever that looks like, and maybe that could be a good indication of where my fitness is at, with a bit of time to go until Gold Coast.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Good recap. Before we get into Weapons of Warp later, I just wanted to shout out that Dan Bobridge gave you a nomination for a weapon this week, saying that you came in fourth in a nothing race, and saying that a tactical area cost you the podium. So very good from Dan. I like that. Good to have a bit of stuff thrown around in the chat. It's great.
Yeah, look, so if you are from Secret Rocky Runners Club, please forward all complaints to Dan Bobridge on Strava.
Yeah.
He thinks your race means nothing.
No, I love that race, and I know the other guys had a bad time. I think, but sometimes if you have a bad race experience, it puts a damper on maybe the course. But I think, like you said, it's a good prep for Bunbury, and it's actually nice just running somewhere else that isn't the usual. It's a bit quieter. It's down. It's an hour and 10 minutes from your house. It's
Yeah.
it's good. It feels like you're on a little holiday.
No, I actually really enjoyed the Secret Rocky Runners run. It is a local race. It's much smaller, but I think it's well organized. Chris Lark was there doing the timing services, so it was good to see him. And it was good to actually see a couple of familiar faces, actually. So it's nice. So I think actually I'll be back next year. So whether or not I do Bunbury Marathon next year, I'll probably use it as a tune-up race.
Interesting. Big eyes. Yep.
All right, let's move on to our interview this week.
Yeah, so like you and I have spoken about this person on a number of occasions, kind of just admiring her, ability to race and win frequently on the, a lot of races throughout the WA calendar. Without further ado, here is your interview with Kate Baker.
All right. Our guest today is someone that both Chris and I are huge fans of. And she's had a killer of a 2024. And I'm going to start listing wins, but I think I'm going to miss a few. So she's won the Peninsula Run, the Rottnest Marathon, the Women's Classic 10K. She's our state half marathon champ, winning the Perth Half Marathon. She won the City to Surf at 12K, the Perth Running Festival half, the Freo half, and I think to top it off, she ran a marathon PB, I believe, placing 7th place at the Chengdu Marathon. She loves the Rottnest Running Festival, holding the Rottnest Marathon women's course record, is the defending champion, and even won the event outright in 2023. She's started 2025 with a bang, taking out the Busso Bay Run in the half marathon, an absolute weapon of an individual who just loves to win. Kate Baker, welcome to the WA Running Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was a long list of wins there. Did I miss a few?
Oh gosh, I can't think. I have it all listed in my phone. I probably should have been a bit more organised and had it open. But no. It's 2024 was a pretty consistent year for me, which was good. I wouldn't say it was my strongest year of running, but it was consistent. So didn't start off too well. I had a bit of a shocker at Osaka Marathon, but I had a stress fracture leading into that, but still raced despite my physio kind of not really recommending. But look, the rest of the year was pretty good.
I'm pretty happy with the consistency there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's take it back a little bit. So I think the listeners would know your name, but they probably don't know too much about you. So let's start with your origin story. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into running, and how has that evolved over the years?
So I grew up in Bustleton, where I spent about 10 years of my life down there. And they had an annual fun run down there many, many years ago, and it was a 5K. I'm not sure if there were other distances or not. And I just, got involved. I actually had a horse obsession as a kid, and I actually had horses down in Bustleton. But I used to run around my backyard pretending I was a horse and jumping over, broomsticks and things like that. So as a kid, I actually was quite fit because I literally just entertained myself pretending I was a horse in the backyard. And yeah, so my family, took me down to this 5K, and I really loved it. And my dad was heavily involved in triathlon back then, and I kind of just started progressing a little bit down that path, really found my love for running. And then, yeah, at 13 did my first triathlon when Bustleton Half Ironman first came to town. Was a shocking swimmer, pretty average bike rider, but could always just kind of hold my own in the run. And that was kind of the progression from there. I really got into triathlon, kind of following my dad down that path, and yeah, just had many years of kind of swim training and cycling, and never really got that good, but yeah, I enjoyed it. But then kind of hit kind of adulthood and took up the triathlon. Like, well, you know what it's like when you're a late teen, you're partying and stuff, and then got back into triathlon for a few years, and then started having babies, and it was just training for 3 sports was a bit unrealistic once I started having kids. I did dabble and I had a try, but I just my level of what I wanted to get out of myself, I couldn't get without training a couple of times a day, and it's just not realistic with little kids. So I chose the running, and I love it, and yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. So it was, I guess, having to choose between the 3 sports, and because I suppose you didn't enjoy the swimming part and the cycling part, you kind of stuck with the running bit.
Yeah. And look, I know it sounds crazy, but I had success in triathlon, and I did get to the pinnacle of the sport. I went to Hawaii and did the Ironman, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, well, I've done it, and I'm ready for some new challenges. And running just felt like there was a unlimited kind of pool there of races, and always can just push for more and more and more, which I loved.
So you've been with Team Tina for quite some time. How did that relationship start with Tina?
I did kind of after having my second babe, we moved back to Perth. We were actually living up in Onslow for my husband's work for a few years. And I had my second baby. We came back to Perth, and I was pretty motivated and just hungry to kind of regain a little bit of myself back and get fit. And kind of, I'd been up in the Pilbara for 3 years. There's no racing up there. So I was just kind of keen to take on some new challenges for myself. And I did Perth Marathon and really surprised myself. I think I did about a 250 or something marathon. And so I was like, nah, I think this is time we take this a bit more seriously. Let's get a coach again and see what we can do. And I just felt like Tina aligned with all my values. She's a mum. She, is supportive of like having family commitments. She's local to me, which meant that we could, catch up and train really easily. She had a great squad that were just going absolutely gangbusters. But yeah, mainly I feel like she just really aligned with my values, and yeah, so I reached out to her and she replied straight away, which was awesome. And
Yep.
yeah, that
Rest
was
is
it.
history.
Yeah.
And you were saying that, it's a pretty good squad, and it is a very good squad. And it must be really nice having sort of training partners around you up at that pointy end as well. So the likes of Loz and Tom Tej and Ben Tay and the like. How important is it to have those guys in addition to having Tina as a coach as well?
You can't push yourself like you can when you're around others. I do most of my training solo on the treadmill. And look, you can press a button and hang on for dear life, but I just don't feel like you can just get the most out of yourself unless there's someone kind of, half stepping you like Tom Tej was for me this morning, half stepping you and making you go a little bit faster. So Yeah, it's a really healthy environment at Team
Yeah.
Tina. Everyone is positive and is out just to get the most out of themselves. I've been coached in triathlon land and running land, and it's just really positive, happy crew to be around. And yeah, so I just usually come down for the Saturday sessions now, because that's kind of all that works in with my family, and really enjoy it. It's my favorite session of the week. So yeah.
Yeah, agree. And you were saying, so it's the juggle, right? So juggling with family. I know you work in healthcare as well, and I guess the general life commitments that you have. How do you balance that juggle with it all, while still maintaining a pretty high level?
We struggled for a long time. It was really hard for a few years. My husband was quite an elite sportsman. I should say, is still an elite sportsman himself. And so there was always the battle for who got to exercise when, like most, couples have. So we had au pairs for quite a few years, which allowed me to train, him to train, work, and all those kinds of things. But we've kind of just got into a good place now. And, I'm quite happy to train on the treadmill. He can go for his paddle and meet up with the surf club crew. Saturdays work perfectly. That his squad session normally starts at 7:30, a kilometre down the road from mine. So I can kind of high five, take the kids, he goes off, and then we have breakfast afterwards. So it's kind of become a little bit of a Saturday tradition for us. And yeah, I'm fortunate that, I only work as a nurse 2 days a week, but we also have a small business that we run, but I can do all that from home. So yeah, we've kind of just got into a good routine, and he will always say, "You're more important. You do your exercise. I can do mine anytime." And I'm like, "No, come on, happy husband as much as happy wife, happy life, happy husband too." So we make it work.
Like I said earlier, you've had an amazing 2024. And like you said, a bit of a setback at the start of the year with a cycle marathon, but then, got really consistent with some of your performances there. What would you consider to be your highlight of 2024, if you were to pick
Ooh,
one?
2024 highlight. Chengdu would have to be Chengdu. Yeah, that came out of nowhere for me. So I got an email from the WA Marathon Club inviting me to go, and we all thought it was a scam, to be honest. My husband was like, "This is a scam. This is a scam." When like they're sending us wanting, passport numbers and bank details and all this kind of stuff, and but no, it was legit. And we got on the plane, and I went with Carlos and Michael Carroll, and we had an awesome trip. And I never thought I'd go to China, but cool country, loved it. The opportunities we had were phenomenal. And to top it off, I had a brilliant race. Absolutely brilliant. Like it just went so perfectly, and I loved it, and it was awesome.
So talk to us about when you got the email through to the marathon itself. Like, what was the time in between, and were you training for anything in particular, or like how did it all work together in terms of the training in the lead up to it?
I was just my focus at that point actually was Perth Half Marathon at the what's called the Perth Running Festival. Sorry, that was kind of my goal. And I think they were quite close together from memory, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks apart or something. And so when the email came through, it was 6 weeks out from Chengdu. And I said to myself, look, this is an awesome opportunity. I've got great base fitness. I know that I can run a marathon no matter what. Like I've done it lots of times. I know what to do. So I was like, let's just get fast. Let's just see if I can get fast. And so lots of treadmill sessions, just trying to push that kind of threshold up a little bit. But I think what was unique about this situation was there wasn't this big hype build up. I was going over for a cool opportunity. I knew I wasn't going to be super marathon fit. Like I knew the back end of that marathon was going to really hurt me because I hadn't done anything kind of over 20K. And I also said to myself, I didn't want to. I wasn't in the headspace for running a marathon. I was in the headspace for running a half. So So I just made the decision not to train for a marathon. I trained for a half, and I knew my legs would get me to the finish line no matter what. Um, so it was really nice. It was refreshing because it wasn't that marathon stress, and it wasn't that you have to commit X amount of hours and Ks per week. It was like, just do what I normally do, which is trying to aim for 100K a week, get your 3 sessions in, your hard sessions, get your long run in. And it was great. Started on the start line and was really relaxed.
So was it like a little bit of not putting that pressure on yourself, and just because acknowledging the fact that it was only 6 weeks to go, like not putting that pressure, do you think that was a bit of the recipe to the success of the day?
Yeah, when I did Osaka marathon, it was a big build, we knew we were going to do it. We planned for it. It was a 12-week program. And in hindsight, I don't actually think the volume suits me. I think the 100K mark is my happy point. My body copes really well. I don't seem to get injured at that 100K mark, but I was getting up to 150s in that block in the build up to Osaka. And the hype around it, like, you're spending a lot of money. We were dragging the whole family, the kids included, across the other side of the world. There was just so much, emotional build up for it. And obviously a lot of heartbreak when it didn't go very well. Really deflated and really struggled post Osaka, actually. Like, we kind of talk about it in our household like a little bit of you used to get the post Ironman depression. You'd do an Ironman and you'd be just flat for weeks because you hit the pinnacle and then you come crashing back down. And I had a post Osaka depression, I'd call it. And so the build into Chengdu, I wasn't going to let myself be like that. It was short, it was sweet, it was positive, and really exciting, really, really exciting to be able to get flown to the other side of the world and go race and, represent WA and be with great crew. And yeah.
Awesome. And the race itself, so I guess coming into it, you were possibly worried that towards the end of the second half was going to be tough. Was it tough, or did you surprise yourself?
The first half of the Chengdu course is really cool. So you kind of winding the streets through all the city. There's people everywhere. You're following waterways as well. So it was beautiful. Really surprisingly lush and green and lots of trees. So like the first half, it's awesome because there's just so much going on. I knew the second half was more highway and open roads. And so not that I prepared mentally for that, but I was aware that there wasn't going to be as much going on to keep you stimulated in the second half. But I was feeling really good. And I think that just kind of was my motivation. I was like, my legs feel great. They haven't, had that typical crash at the 30K mark. They're actually getting quicker. Let's see who we can catch. And I remember catching one of the paces for the lead marathon men because he'd obviously done his time and dropped off. And I was like, hey, they're not that far up the road. Get moving kind of thing. And it was a struggle. There definitely was, there was still heaps of crowd support, but you're a lot more exposed being like a 4-lane kind of highway. It was a little bit harder to get through the second half, but you just kind of count down the Ks and they're going past fast and it's just suck it up. You're doing awesome. Just get to that finish line. So, yeah.
Amazing. And okay, so you've won Rottnest the past couple of years, which include winning the event outright, beating all the blokes in time 2 hours 47, somewhere around there, setting the course record for the women's at the same time. If you cast your mind back to 2023, what was training like in the lead up to that, and how did it pan out?
Look, structure-wise, exactly the same as what I'm doing now. I think looking back, I do go back and reflect on previous years and compare. I think there was a little bit of what you don't know won't hurt you. Like, I think the more you do these marathon training blocks and half blocks, you kind of learn what paces hurt and how long you can sustain a pace. I think back then I was just naive. So I used to smash myself so much harder. Like I'd look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart rate was 180. I was doing, 325s and holding this pace for ages. And I'm like, oh God, I wouldn't do that now. So I think I was just, I didn't know my limits back then, or I was more willing to push my limits. And now I've got a bit older and maybe, I just kind of apprehensive to go out too hard. Whereas back then I'd just blow up, and that was okay because I was pushing my limits by seeing how long I could push them and hold them for.
2023, you were sort of pushing your limit really and pulling it off. So how did that change in 2024? Was it a bit of a realization of what your body can handle and sort of tweaking it in 2024?
As I kind of said before, like post Osaka, I wasn't in a very good headspace. And the whole kind of half of the year was a little bit, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Trying to find my why, like, getting up at, I know a lot of people do it, but I whinge about it a lot. Getting up at 4:55 is not normal. And doing that day in, day out before work and stuff, you're kind of like, why am I doing this? Like when you're not PBing and you're not blowing, you're not doing sessions that are surprising you or blowing you out of the water. I was kind of like, what's the point in this? So it's been a bit of a mental year, I would say 2024, like just trying to find my why. And to be honest, I don't think I found it. I still wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh gosh, what am I doing? But I guess it's habit, right? We are all so committed to our healthy lifestyles, and we know how good running is for our mental health. I think that's what gets me out the door each day. It's like, okay, if I don't do this by 10 a.m., I'm going to be grumpy at myself and grumpy at the world because I haven't done what I wanted to do. So I think 2024 was just a bit of a battle of kind of surviving it. But I said to myself towards the end of the year, something's got to change. And I've tried to implement a bit this year of pushing the paces again. So kind of jumping on the treadmill now, like I always did my 1K reps at 3:30 pace, right? It was 1K at 3:30. But then I kind of was like, well, hang on, you're not going to get better because you never actually, you can get through that. You can get through 6 by 1K at 3:30, but you're not going to get better by doing that. So the last kind of couple of months has been, I'm trying to challenge myself again. And it is exciting. It is giving me motivation. And we're just seeing what I can do, which is nice. And I am actually getting really pleasantly surprised with some of my sessions. Some I'm failing. You'll see, I put everything on Strava. I'm an open book. I don't hide anything. And, I failed a session last week. And then I had another crappy session on Thursday because I had a job interview, and I was so stressed about the job interview. I couldn't even think about my hard session on the treadmill. And then this morning's session was great. Like I was running as quick as I was over a more undulating course back when I was in peak marathon fitness. So I am surprising myself, and it's motivating, right? So
amazing. You've won Rotto back to back. Will there be a three-peat this year?
Accommodation's booked. The entry's in. We've got a great crew from my daughter's school going over. Heaps of families are coming over. Some people are going to do their first marathon. So at the moment, my head's like, woohoo, social, like this is going to be great fun. Throw in a marathon in there, but look, it's always the goal to win, right? So we'll see what happens.
Strong favourite there then. All right. So you were talking about, the injury setbacks, and as well as understanding where your training load is at, where, pushing up to 150 Ks a week might be just too much for the body and not being able to handle that. I did notice that you went through a period, and I think you still do go through a period of a lot of elliptical. So is that the supplementary training that you do nowadays, or?
No, that's just a red flag that I'm injured.
Yeah. Okay.
No, as soon as the elliptical comes out, it's normally I've got a stress reaction.
Niggle, injury.
Yeah. I avoid that thing like the plague. It just gets really dusty in my home gym for months, and then I'll, do an elliptical session, and normally it's Tom Tej messaging me going, are you injured again?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I am.
So if we see an elliptical sesh on Strava, it's something's gone wrong. Something's up.
Yeah.
So does that mean that, so your training then would then just sit around the 100K mark then? That's kind of your optical training load to get you to where you need to be, whether it's a marathon, half marathon?
I think so. I think that's where I've found that it works best for my family. It works best for my body. I feel, I remember a friend saying to me many, many years ago, back when I was just doing triathlon, and she said that she always ran in pain as a runner because she was a pure runner, and she said there's no point in her running that she's not in some form of pain. And it's always resonated with me because I get it. Like, you walk out the door in the morning and you're super stiff and you feel awful. But I actually have found at this 100K mark, I can run pain-free. And for me, that's a big tick of the box. When you're getting up to that 120 for me, 150, I was in pain. And it makes unpleasant running. I don't want to go and run in the pitch black darkness in the middle of winter and be in pain. So for me, 100K seems to be the perfect amount. You can still get really good bang for buck in your sessions. You've still got the volume to, supplement the sessions. And for me, it means I can get through my easy runs really comfortably and I'm not hurting.
Excellent. So I think the thing that Chris and I are huge fans about you is the fact that you're such a good racer. And I think every time we run in a race that you're in, you're always leading at the front and you're working, you can tell that you're working pretty hard as well. Where does the competitive mindset come from?
I don't like losing.
Okay.
I've always been someone who likes to go out hard and hold on. And I remember back in the triathlon days, I was doing a track session and the boys all got really angry at me because they were faster runners than me, but they were like, why are you going out so hard and then dying? And I was like, because that's just how I like to race. I race from the front and I hold on for dear life. And if I fail, I fail. But at least I know I like to be in control. Really, I'm a control freak. I like to have control of the race, and I like to be the pace setter. There was some really funny photos from China actually of me sitting on the front with a pack of like 10 men, right? But like no one would take a lead. And I was like, you know what? I couldn't care less because I'm the one that's controlling the pace. And I'm the one that's allowing myself to lower my heart rate when I would, surge or something like that. I like to be in the control. So you'll, generally find that I'll go out hard and whoever wants to come with me, great, bring it on. Like, I like to be the one controlling the pace. So yeah.
Has there been a time where it's not worked out, or because the hit rate's so good, you just go, oh well, it's worked. It's a winning formula.
Look, it's, as I said, it's been a pretty consistent year for me. Couple of years. I was disappointed a little bit with Busso. I was hoping people would come with me. I had set myself the goal of trying to PB there, and my PB is a 116 flat, and I really was hoping to PB. But I knew pretty early on when I was running solo that probably wasn't going to happen. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing. I would have really loved a pack to kind of get the best out of myself. But yeah, the last couple of years, it's kind of been pretty consistent.
So we're recording on International Women's Day, and we think you're a weapon in your own right. But what about people in your life, like in terms of women in your life that inspire you? Who are they?
So probably not no one would really know, but my sister-in-law is a machine. She holds down a extremely stressful Monday to Friday job in a very probably male-dominated industry in mining. Her hubby is also quite an elite sportsman who was doing FIFO up until recently. And she's got 2 little kids, and she was also doing her Yeah, her MBA, that's the one. She tries to keep fit herself, and I find her super inspiring. I'm like, mate, I don't know how you do it. How do you run a household, work full time, do your MBA, exercise? Like, she is the ultimate power woman. Yeah, I would say she's probably one of my biggest inspirations.
Amazing. All right, so I guess turning the attention to picking the races and choosing races that you want to take part in. Like, what's the criteria for you when you're planning for example, a 2025 year?
Yeah, and this is something that's actually been a really big factor for me the last couple of weeks, months, is going back to my why. So I keep doing all these Perth races, but not feeling very satisfied at the finish line, no matter the outcome. And as I said, I'm a bit of an open book, and sometimes maybe I should keep my mouth shut a little bit more, but I've really struggled with just doing the same races over and over again, and not being very satisfied at the finish line. So I have tentatively planned to go do Adelaide Marathon, but it's also kind of, I'm trying to find something that gets me excited. Like, I need a race that's exciting. We've looked heavily in going back to China because I really enjoyed that. Just hubby and I going and leaving the kids at home. I've reached out to a couple of marathons, but haven't heard anything back, which is very annoying. So planning for this year is Margaret River Ultra with my friend, and that's kind of just for a bit of fun, and I guess the satisfaction of finishing it. I've done it once, and it would be nice to go and do a better job of it second time round and support my friend who's doing her first ultra. But really, that's kind of it. That's penciled in. So I really don't know at the moment. Yeah. I can't make up my mind because nothing is just getting me excited at the moment. So I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm a little bit in limbo at the moment, but just.
When is Adelaide? When's
Adelaide's the first weekend of May, so it's actually the weekend before Margaret River Ultra.
Okay.
And the first time I did Margaret River Ultra, I actually did Busselton 100, the triathlon, the weekend before. So I'm not afraid of backing it up. I think I can just survive. Yeah. It's just surviving, right? So I'm not afraid to back it up, but I don't know if Adelaide's quite exciting me enough to go. And that's what I don't want to race for the sake of racing. I want to race because I'm motivated and excited by the race.
I imagine that's been the biggest change since 2024 then, is I think you raced often, right? And now this year for you is very much is it worth it? Am I motivated and driven enough to train for it? And if I don't get the drive or the motivation, why do it?
Well, it's like, why stand on a start line if you're not excited about being there? And, I just need, it's finding my motivations again. And I guess I'm trying to build these blocks of, okay, well, if I start pushing myself on the treadmill and I can increase my paces and get quicker, and then when I go to race, we see change, then that's the goal, right? I want to see change. I want to see improvement, because I think last year was as much as it was, I did well, and I can't complain because it was, you win a race, yay, like it's great, but I wasn't happy with that. And so I'm really determined this year, if I am going to keep racing, then I need to make sure it's because I want to be there and I want to be raring to go at the start line. And yeah.
Amazing. So would there be potentially any tune-up races you would think of doing in the lead up to, if Adelaide happens, or if it's not Adelaide, it's raring to go for Margaret River Ultra? Is there any upcoming races that you're thinking, perhaps not to race to win, but as a stepping stone to Margaret River or Adelaide?
So my husband's doing Xterra, which is a off-road triathlon in Dunsborough in a couple of weeks, and they've got a half marathon there. And tempted to just go have a run out there. I love trail. I'm just not very good at rock hopping, and I know for a fact there's about 2 kilometers of rock hopping. And last time I did it, I like on the same kind of course but a shorter event, I ended up walking. And everyone was looking at me funny because I don't know if you remember, but the old Mizuno Hitagami shoes, they
Yep,
were
yep.
like, kind of short distance road racing shoes. And I wore them for a trail event because I thought they were nice and light. And if anyone knows the rocks in Dunsborough that you run on the beach and kind of around the old Dunsborough boat ramp, they are very slippery, and it was raining that day. So I was slipping and sliding all over the place in my Hitagamis that were great on the trails, but not so great on the rocks. So I want to enter this race, but I also have major demons with those rocks, and they're in the last couple of K of the half marathon. So at this stage, I am support wife for my husband racing the day before, and we will see if I can
find some new shoes.
bring myself to go and have a go on the half. So we'll see. But no, other than that, I have no desire to race anything else at the moment.
Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, Kate. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be chatting to you. Thanks for joining me on the WA Running Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was our chat with Kate Baker. Sorry you couldn't make it to the interview, mate. I guess it was okay that you got to celebrate your birthday on Saturday. So all good. I was able to take the reins there. Really good chat with Kate, a person that we've been looking forward to chat for a very long time. And I completely forgot that she had Osaka Marathon at the start of 2024. And she talks through, I guess, feeling very depressed because, the prep and the lead up and the performance at Osaka didn't go to plan, and putting all your eggs in one basket in Osaka Marathon, and having to search for your why again. And when she did, she bloody won every single race she entered. So you could really tell how much of a competitor she is, and pretty inspiring actually.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, she's one of the premier running athletes in WA. I hope the listeners, really get something from that interview. It's good to hear.
Enough rambling from us, because I know that there's someone that does not like us rambling on a podcast. So we'll quickly move on to upcoming events, mate.
So this weekend, as we touched on earlier, we've got the Canning River Running Works Festival. That's on Sunday, 16th of March. There's a 10K there, which I'll be doing. So if anyone wants to pace me to sub 37, reach out. Half marathon, that's been sold out, unfortunately. But I'm sure if you get in touch with Chris, maybe there's a waiting list or something, potentially, just see what happens. And then a marathon, if you haven't signed up yet, well then there's always this week. So you could have a nice late taper. That'll be a great event held out at kind of toward Hester Park, I think, out near Gozzies somewhere. And then same day, we've got the WAMC Darlington Half Marathon. There's an 8K and a 21K half marathon there. Again, 200 meters uphill. So don't complain when you get halfway through that marathon and you're absolutely gassed. I think a couple of our runners from the Bunbury special will be out there, so they're minor celebrities now. You can go and meet and greet a bunch of the team. We've also got Hurdy's Front Yard on the 21st of March. A lot of people in the Perth running community getting themselves ready for that. Collie Trail Fest, that's 29th of March. The Bridges Run coming up on Sunday, the 6th of April. 5 and 10K options there. And then, of course, the much anticipated Bunbury Runners Club Three Waters Running Festival. All distances bar the 5 kilometres are sold out. So if you want to be a part of the fun, get down there for a quick 5 and have a pass the night before, a couple of scoops of ice cream and
steak sandwich the next day or afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. What more can you ask for on a Sunday afternoon?
Let's move on to our WARP admin. So after a successful Community Run 003, we've announced Community Run 004. So that's going to be on Wednesday, the 26th of March at 5:45 p.m. So we're partnering up with the Running Centre again and supported by a friend of the show, Vlad from Bix Nutrition. And we'll do another wear test with Brooks coming along and partnering with us this time. So very excited for that. I know last time we did our community run, we did receive our first complaint related to the community run, which is from our friend Nita, who complained about you guys being out front, dictating the pace there, going a little bit too quick for an easy run there through the hills of Kings Park. So hopefully this time will be a little bit more accommodating, right?
And that might have to be grade adjusted pace too, because there are a couple of little climbs there. So how about the Whispers this week? What's our master of Whispers got to tell us?
So we can confirm, I guess, from the master whisperer himself, that we can confirm that a fifth spot in our Transcend team is definitely open now. So after a couple of weeks of trying to figure out who was pregnant in our Warp admin team, our Warp admin chat, we can confirm that Dan is expecting a second child. So congrats, Dan Bobridge, there on his upcoming second child. So I think that's going to happen sometime in July. So unfortunately, he will be unable to make it to Transcend on the 16th of August. I don't know if you've noticed in the last couple of weeks, but I have been sliding into Dean Menzies' DMs and tagging him in a lot of stuff. So he hasn't said no. I'm starting to think that maybe Dean's not interested in it. So.
He's just being very polite, yeah.
He's being very polite. I know in his new podcast, he's asked for questions this week, so I have explicitly asked whether or not he'll join our team, but I'm not expecting good news there. So, look, we are asking for a fifth member. How are we going to do this? Are we going to do an expressions of interest, or are we going to hand pick, or what are you thinking?
I think we could do an expressions of interest. I think it'd be good to know how many people are actually listening, and then second of all, like whether or not they're keen to run with us, or even talk to us. So I think we've already had a couple of people express their interest, which has been great, but more than happy to receive more. So maybe we'll put a little post on the socials this week and see what numbers we can get.
Excellent. So that was our main Whispers of War, but we did hear in the grapevine that the upcoming HBF Run for a Reason, that's on the 25th of May, is being organised by an avid listener of the show. So very interesting there. So I think historically we've always had feedback on what HBF should do to make the event a better event for runners, and seems like it's under safe hands, I think, for this year's event, but perhaps in future years as well. So we'll try and endeavour to get this avid listener on the show and perhaps preview the race in the lead up to the event as well. So that's really exciting.
Not just an avid listener, past and future guest potentially. So I think
very exciting.
That's gonna throw some spanners in the works. But
definitely. Well, actually, because I know that you're gonna go on your Euro trip in September, so we might get this person as the guest host during that period of time, right? Because how long are you away for?
I'll be away for 3 weeks, so I'm sure that people, I'm sure they'd love to listen to you just by yourself for 3 weeks, but it would be great to, potentially get a couple of interesting individuals on board and see what they can offer.
Yeah, no. Oh, so 3 whispers this week. That was an unplanned third whisper there.
Yeah.
Let's move to our weapons of war.
Yeah, look, a bit of a mixed bag this week. I'll start with the bad stuff because it's a bit of a downer. I know we both noticed someone posting on their Strava about a medical emergency that had occurred in the evening one night, and instead of calling the police or an ambulance, they instead took a photo of this person and posted it to their Strava, and then proceeded to go for a run and then took a photo of themselves without a shirt on. So I mean, you really have to question what people are thinking in the very first place when their first response is to get a phone out to take a photo of someone who's potentially not in a good place. And then second of all, like, Strava is not the fucking platform to seek attention or kudos for something like that. So I mean, I've unfollowed, you've unfollowed this person. Yeah, I can't see us getting involved with them in the future. On a lighter note, we had a couple of good little things this week. So I did my 38Ks for 38 years on Saturday, and our friend Audwin Lee, listener of the show, he turned 40 years old on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
But he decided he was missing out on Saturday's run because he works Saturday morning. So he decided to go for a 40K run on Sunday, but he accidentally miscalculated the distance and ended up running a marathon. So, pretty savage from Ordwin there, running a marathon on any given Sunday, but that's what he's all about. He loves the long runs, and as we call it, Uncle Run Club. He is our leader. So good stuff, Audie. And then finally, Ellie Glanz, past guest of the show, just quick shout out to her. She had a virus during the week, but had to run the state champs in the steeplechase and still came second. So, well done, Ellie. Great to see.
Definitely a warranted weapon of warp there. And I know, like, huge respects to Uncle Ordwin, who refuses to do actual marathon events. So he's very much run a marathon without having to pay, hundreds of dollars. Happy to do Lake Munga all free, run a marathon, set up a trestle table, no worries. So happy birthday, Uncle Ordwin there. And I look forward to this year's Lake Munga Marathon.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we'll find out exactly what that is and share that with the listeners when it happens. But one quick note on Ordwin, not wanting to pay for any marathons. He did tell me a couple of weeks ago that he wanted to run, of all places, Pyongyang Marathon in North Korea.
Really?
Which risking probably life or persecution. So I think he's interesting. He likes to do things differently. So I think he's actually declined doing that marathon in the end. But
he's realised how much it was going to cost and didn't think it was worth it.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, that's it for us this week on the episode 069 of the WA Running Podcast. You can reach out to us on Instagram at WA Running Pod. Our email address is warunningpodcast@gmail.com, and our Strava group is Warp. That's it for us this week, and we'll catch you next week on the WA Running Podcast.
See you guys.